China powers more factories, more cities, and more innovation than almost anyone on Earth. Yet, their energy is cheaper, their supply is more stable, and their infrastructure far more advanced. Meanwhile, in the UK, the supposed cradle of the Industrial Revolution, energy prices are some of the highest in the developed world. So what happened? How did China make electricity affordable for 1.4 billion people while Britain can barely keep the lights on? Now, China and the UK couldn't be more different in how they think about energy. In China, energy is the national strategy. In the UK, it's a market product. China treats electricity as infrastructure, a foundation of power and growth. The UK treats it as a commodity, something to be traded, auctioned, and speculated on. That's the core difference. China builds, Britain buys. And because of that, the cost structures are completely different. China invests centrally, long-term, and at scale, and the UK outsources it to private firms competing in a fragmented market, each one adding a margin. And let's have a look at China's secret: scale and control. China produces around 8,400 terawatt hours of electricity every year. That's nearly 3 times the UK's total input. Nearly 30 times the UK's total input. And they do it using a mix of sources designed for stability, not speculation. Massive coal plants for baseline power, huge hydropower dams like the Three Gorges, fast-growing solar and wind capacity, the largest in the world, expanding nuclear and new high-efficiency transmission networks. The scale gives China what economists call energy economies of scale. They can build plants cheaper, buy fuel in bulk, standardize equipment, use state banks to finance projects at near zero interest, and China industrialized energy itself, and that industrialization made it cheap. Now, let's look at the UK. Despite being one of the richest nations on earth, it's built on an energy model from the 1980s. Fragmented, privatized, and overly financialized. Dozens of small retailers buy from wholesale markets, transmission and generation are owned by different entities, and all of it operates on a marginal pricing model, meaning the most expensive source sets the price for everyone. Even if wind power generates at near zero cost, if gas prices spike, everyone pays the gas rate. It's not an energy system, it's more like an energy casino. The UK also heavily relies on imports, both electricity through European interconnectors and gas from abroad. When global prices soar, Britain feels it instantly. Whereas China owns its own supply chains, coal, uranium, solar manufacturing, and increasingly oil and gas fields abroad through Belt and Road investments. The UK rents energy while China manufactures it. And cheap energy in China isn't an accident, it's a policy. The government deliberately keeps industrial energy costs low to fuel manufacturing and exports. Local governments often sell power to factories at a loss because those factories create jobs, GDP growth, and tax revenue downstream. In the West, we would call that intervention. In China, they call it development. They see cheap power not as a subsidy, but as an investment in the future. And it's working. Every electric vehicle, every solar panel, every battery is powered by a supply chain built on predictable, affordable energy. In the UK, the same build would crush a factory before it even opened. And you'd think the UK's heavy investment in renewables would help, but it hasn't. Not yet anyway. And here's why. Britain's green transition is market-driven, not centrally coordinated. Every turbine, solar farm and grid expansion is financed by private capital that expects returns. So even green energy becomes a profit vehicle, not a public good. China, on the other hand, builds renewables like roads or railways as public infrastructure. That means lower cost, faster rollout, and zero middlemen demanding quarterly profits. China's renewables are built to serve people. Britain's are built to serve investors. And that's why the paradox exists. Even as the UK goes greener, your bills keep rising because renewable energy is in a privatised market doesn't make the power free, it just creates a new kind of monopoly. China can deliver cheap energy because it doesn't separate economics from politics. Energy policy is industrial policy. The UK, meanwhile, separates everything. Private companies own generation, Ofgem regulates distribution, Treasury sets taxes, and ministers change every 2 years. It's like trying to run a power grid by committee where nobody takes charge but everyone's taking a cut. China runs energy the way a CEO runs a company: decide, fund, build, scale. The UK runs energy the way a hedge fund runs an asset: speculate, outsource, and profit. That's the difference between power as a tool for national growth and power as a product for sale. So yes, in some ways, arguably, in a lot of ways, the UK is stuck in the dark ages. Not technologically, but philosophically. Britain was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. Now it's a country that imports energy, outsources production, and pays for inefficiency. China learned the lessons of industrial Britain and built a system that never lets power slip out of the state's hands. The UK treats electricity like a luxury, and China treats it like it's oxygen. And that's why the lights in the Shenzhen power skyscrapers, while in Britain they flicker between headlines about windfall taxes and price caps. So the question isn't necessarily whether China's system is better, even though I think we have answered that question. It's whether our system still makes sense. Because a country that can't power its people affordably can't grow, can't innovate, and ultimately can't compete. Energy isn't just about electricity, it's about independence. And right now, Britain doesn't have either. China didn't just master energy, it mastered the economics of control. And until the UK learns that lesson, it will keep pretending competing is working, while the rest of the world builds the future.